Yeah, hopefully soon. Hopefully this COVID thing go off real soon.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our very first KYSER Talk of the year. My name is Harvina, and I will be your MC this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, today we have one extremely distinguished speaker who currently lives all the way in Switzerland. But before we let you in on anything else about our incredible speaker, please welcome the Deputy KYSER President, Mr. Nadri Abu Bakar, to say a few words.
Assalamualaikum. Hello. Hi everybody. Can you all hear me? Is all audio and video okay, moderator? All good?
Yes.
Yes, just making sure. So yeah, it's good to be back again. I would like to make this casual, chill and relaxed to everybody. I don't want to make it so formal. I guess I should start with thanking the school, of course, KYS, for having this program, for inviting me um, for this Kaiser Talk 2021. And then, of course, my biggest appreciation to the principal, Mr. Tan Cheh Lee, and not forgetting Mr. Rama, because I've been told that this is organized also by the historical club, right? And then to the students, to the committee basically, who put this together to make this happen. So here we are today with, if I can see, about 100 over participants joining our program right now. Having our honorable guest, Ms. Syazwani, all the way from Switzerland is of course something very, very valuable to all of us, not just the students of KYS, but to the Kaisers as well. I'm not sure how many Kaisers who are in right now, but I would like to take this opportunity to thank each one of you, be it the teachers, staff, the current students, fellow alumni, um, to make this kind of program, Kaiser Talk, continue from year to year. I believe we have started this since I think many years back. I couldn't recall the exact year, but this is a very, very good initiative, a great initiative indeed. Number one, this kind of talk will help to link up the current students with the alumni, because we don't want to have a gap. We don't want to have a big gap between those two. So we want to make sure that we are still in contact from time to time in any way, because in Kaiser, I believe the president Azim have the same mission, have the same vision of this. And then second one, to develop and uh, organizing and managing skills in organizing this such a program. This is very, very important, because being a student from 4, from 5, or even uh, up to the from 1, 2, and 3, to start learning, organizing, and managing this kind of program, be it online or physical, is really, really good to start early. And it's a valuable experience, because other than lessons that you can learn in school from the teachers, but real experience, life experience that you can learn from um, the sharing sessions that we are having from the alumni, like what we're gonna have today with Syazwani. So it's gonna inspire everybody, I guess, not just the students, but of course like myself as well. I keep on learning every day. Um, Last part would be my advice with these kind of programs. I hope everybody, we will always aim high, because being students of KYS, when I was there as a student last time, um, as a Husseinian, proud Husseinian, um, we always aim high. Not just Hussein, but I bet Razak, Rahman and all. But what I'm trying to say here, if I can relate, if I'm allowed to relate a bit, when we first had our first annual rugby match that year, 1997, against the big name of Malay College Kuala Kangsar, our biggest rival. Our first time, they were the champion at that time. We aim high. We want to win, even though it's our first ever game. And we achieved that. So starting from the day until today, we put that in our mind to everybody, KYS, that we should always aim high. And then second thing, remember our roots. Remember to pray, doa. Remember, of course, your to pray, your religion. Remember your parents, your teachers. Always be down to earth, and no matter you end up after school as who you are, where you are, but always remember to give back to the community, to the schools. And what matter most is actually, if you ask me, it's not who you are at the end by 5-10 years time, but the value that you can give back to the community. In our prospect is the school, what you can give back to the school, to teachers, to staff, to our friends and all. So it doesn't matter much who you are, but the value that you can give back. So I guess with that, I don't want to prolong. I would welcome all KYSERs, if you are in here, if you are listening, or even after this with this recorded video. Be participative at all time, anytime. Contribute back if you have time to share, not just monetary, but experience and knowledge. Come back to the school, contribute to this kind of program, to KYS or even to KYSER. So with that, again, I would like to thank everybody. Thanks for having me. Thank you, Syazwani, for being here today with all of us. Thank you, Mr. Tan Chelly. Thank you, Mr. Rama, and thank you to the organizing committee. Hope you will all have a beneficial session today. Assalamualaikum. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nazri, for that warm welcome. Now, before we begin, here are a few house rules. Firstly, please switch your smartphone and or any sound emitting devices to silent mode. Secondly, avoid doing anything in front of the webcam that will distract the speakers. Thirdly, your microphone will be muted by the Zoom master. Next, if you have any questions, please type it out in the chat box or the Q&A box. And lastly, your cooperation to strictly observe these house rules is highly appreciated. Now, for the moment we've been waiting for, our speaker today, Ms. Syazwani Fatkhi. A brief introduction of our gracious speaker. After 5 years at KYS and 2 years of A-levels as a PNB scholar at KYUEM, Ms. Wani graduated with first-class honors in economics before pursuing a Master of Science in Modern Japanese Studies at the University of Oxford. She met her Swiss husband in Buenos Aires, Argentina, while pursuing her goal to visit 100 countries before turning 30. On the 11th of July 2014, at the age of 28, Ms. Wani stepped foot in Kuwait, her 100th country. Having been to 108 countries, she is now experiencing the joys and the challenges of traveling with 3 kids in tow. Her eldest child visited his 30th country and 6th continent at the age of 3. Ms. Wani's career in recruitment began with servicing investment banks, private equity and venture capital firms, family offices, and strategy consulting businesses. She has hired and trained over 50 recruiters worldwide as a recruitment manager in Zurich before successfully developing the life science business for a leading independent Swiss recruitment firm based in Basel. Moving in-house to a biotech and a longevity fund, she found herself as the only non-scientist in the startup world. Following her entrepreneurial calling, Ms. Wani founded Sigilas, a finance and life science recruitment firm in Basel in September of 2020. Wow, after hearing all of that, I'm sure all of you are on the edge of your seats right now, waiting to hear what Miss Wani has to say. Well, I won't keep you waiting any longer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Syazwani Fatkhi.
Thank you so much for the very, very kind intro. Hi, everybody. I am talking to you from Basel today. It is very cold. It's -8 outside. I'd love to find out where everybody is tuning in from. If you're from outside of Malaysia, I'd love to find out who's joining us today. Mr. Rama reached out to me and asked me if I could speak. I thought it was only going to be to the Form 5 students. Turns out it's like to everybody. I'm not entirely sure what exactly I should talk about, but I thought what probably makes me different from perhaps the other KYSERs out there who have done amazing in their careers and have lots to share about the business world, probably is more on the traveling side of things. So I'd love to maybe share with you today about some of the travel experiences I've had. And if there is any takeaway from today, I would love for it to be perhaps two simple things. So one, I'd love to share with you how big the world is out there, outside of Malaysia that we love and that we know. And secondly, although we have our identity, if we're Malay, Chinese, Indian, we have our religions, we are all unique in our own rights. But at the same time, I hope we all also remember that in the end, we're all humans. We're all people. We all have the same heart. We care about the same things. We all need food. We need shelter. We face the same problems like coronavirus, like climate change. So although we are different, we're also all the same. And with that, I hope we can all view life in as much kindness and with a loving nature. Okay, so I thought I'd start off with sharing a video that I made for my husband. I'm going to share my screen with you. For his birthday 4 years ago when he turned. Okay, I'll just let you watch for a bit.
Let me hear all you have to give with the truth that's truly you.
Okay, I hope that was entertaining. Um, what do I do now? Sekejap, stop share. Okay. So maybe I start off with a bit of a background of how I came up with this goal to visit 100 countries before 30. So during my time when I was studying in the UK, I traveled a lot with a bunch of friends from university. I found myself in Estonia. The capital city is called Tallinn. It's south of Finland. And I was chatting with a Japanese guy who was in the same hostel room as we were. And he was saying that he was based in London. And every weekend he was traveling to a new country to explore Europe. And then I realized from how he was speaking that he had been to a lot of countries. So I asked him, it was the first time I ever asked anyone this question, how many countries have you been to? And he answered 63. And I was so shocked and started counting how many countries I had been to. And it was probably around 20 at this point. This was 2007. So I was 21. And then somehow immediately I said, I am going to visit 100 countries before 30. I had no idea how I was going to do that. Anyway, I'm actually a very simple person. The reason I did my master's in modern Japanese studies was because when I was in Warwick doing my undergraduate degree in economics, I hated economics. I only did it because there was nothing else to do. It was either economics or accounting. So when I was back in KYS, I was in the business stream. I was in 4 and 5 Rajin. And so, yeah, it was like, if you want to get a scholarship, you're either studying accounting and economics. At least it was during my time. And then I wanted to stay on in the UK because I still wanted to continue traveling. And the only way I could be sponsored to do a master's was if I got a first class honors in my degree. So I studied hard and I was thinking, what could I do for my master's? I didn't want to continue doing economics, and then realized that there was this course in Oxford called Masters in Modern Japanese Studies. And the reason I did that was, again, because I told you I'm actually a really simple-minded person. I was watching a lot of Japanese TV shows at this point of time when I was in the UK for some reason. Fell in love with Japan, wanted all this time that I was spending watching Japanese TV dramas to not be a waste, and so decided to learn Japanese as part of my elective module at university. But the problem was, even though I got into Oxford, I was accepted into Oxford, I had to have a certain level of Japanese language to actually be able to do the course. And after 2 years of studying Japanese in university, whereby it was perhaps a 2 or 3 hour class every week, I mean, it's like studying Mandarin in KYS for 5 years. Can I speak Mandarin? No, I cannot speak Mandarin at all. Basically, I couldn't speak the language. I had theory knowledge, but it got me nowhere. So I thought I would go to Japan, spend 7 weeks during my summer between my degree and my master's, and hopefully sign up for some crash course and study Japanese somehow. I had no idea what I was going to do when I get there. I had no idea where I was going to stay. I knew nothing. I just bought a return flight ticket. I had 2,000 pounds I had saved during my degree in my bank account. I was just going to go. And when I realized that I was actually going to go, this was really the first time that I would travel solo, knowing that I actually still didn't speak the language. I had no idea what I was going to do. Luckily, my dad, while he was coming over to Warwick for my graduation, he said he had met a Japanese man in the bus in Frankfurt while he was there for work reasons. And he woke this man up, and the man was a super nice guy, exchanged business cards with him. And he said to me, give this man a call. He's Japanese, like maybe he can help you. And I'm like, what am I going to say? I am the daughter of the man who woke you up in the bus in Frankfurt, and I want to come to Japan. I have nowhere to stay. Can I stay with you? And I was like, I can't. I don't have the level of Japanese. What do I do? So anyway, went back to Malaysia to apply for my visa for Japan. My dad was working for Sime Darby at this point, and Sime Darby owned SGMC, the hospital in Subang. And there was an outpatient center, and there was a Japanese nurse there. So we actually went to her and we said, can you help us call this man? And it was just a strange strange thing, right? So she just calls up this man and she says, do you remember this man that woke you up? His daughter wants to go to Japan, and she can you like help her? And he said, yeah, of course, just tell her to give me a call when she gets here. And I thought, but I said, but I can't give you a call, because even back then in 2008, for phones to work, it had to be a 4G phone, I think, something like that. And I didn't have the phone. And he said, well, it's okay, just tell her to figure a way out to give me a call and I'll give her a phone. And I'm like, what do you mean you'll give me a phone? Like, who gives a person a phone, right? So anyway, called him when I got there. I stayed with some friends that I met in uni. And then a friend of mine helped me call him, and immediately he said, well, I'm going to take the Shinkansen to come down to Tokyo and see you tonight. And then my friend said, okay, so usually Shinkansen is the bullet train. It's fairly expensive. You don't just normally just hop on a Shinkansen. It's kind of like buying a flight ticket. People buy it in advance. And then he said, plus the fact that he said he was just going to give you a phone, he must be rich. So anyway, we met him at one of the exit stations. There's like 80 exits probably in Shinjuku train station. This is the busiest train station in Japan, if I'm not wrong. There's 4 million people that would go use this train station every day. We met him and he asked me, what would you like to eat? And I said, I just want to have a Japanese meal. And he goes, okay, let's go to the top floor restaurant. So there's a mall that's attached to one part of the train station. And the 7th floor, the entire 7th floor was just this one restaurant, this fancy restaurant, right? And then he goes, okay, we're having that. The kaiseki meal is basically the most expensive thing on the menu. And then I had my guidebook with me. I looked through the 50 things to experience in Japan. It was the number 2 thing to experience, which is to have a kaiseki meal. And so I experienced that on my second night in Japan. And then he said, you're welcome to come and stay with me. Just come. And then I was like, okay, I'll come. After a week that I stayed with some friends, reached his house. He picked us up in his S500 Mercedes, where the door is like closes automatically, takes us to his second home in the mountains, which is famous for onsen. So onsen is the hot springs. So the Japanese culture is such that they go to the onsen a lot, but it's a communal thing. So you would go to an onsen. It's like you go to a pool place, right? You go to an onsen, you have your bath, and you come home. But with him, because he is who he is, and his name, by the way, is Kanagawa-san, he has 3 private outdoor onsens in his backyard and 1 indoor onsen. And my first experience as this 22-year-old in Japan was to have this private onsen experience under the stars, and I could go like anytime. Anyway, then he went back to his home the next day. He took us to his home the next day. I met his family. So the reason he met my dad in Frankfurt was because he was on his way to Lisbon, because he was visiting his daughter, who is a Japanese teacher in Lisbon. The daughter was visiting with her Portuguese family, and they kind of took me in and said, why don't you, we're going to show you Japan. And so I suddenly just got this free experience, didn't pay for anything, got a Japanese language teacher that I didn't know, because I had no idea how I was going to do this, right? So it was a lot of trust in God. I was so afraid. I actually said to my mom, like, I don't want to go. Like, what am I going to do? I don't know where am I going to stay. I don't know, whatever. She said, believe and put your faith in God, and he will take care of you. So I think I've had a bit of that as well in my life. Anyway, back to my Japan experience. I spent a week or 2 with them. Amazing time. Didn't spend a cent. Ate the most amazing food. And then I went traveling on my own. And I had the Japan Rail Pass for 2 weeks. And during this time, because I was like a poor student, right? So I would travel during the day. I would eat like 1 or 2 onigiri, which is like, I don't know, $1 each. And then I would go back to wherever I was staying for the night, and I would eat magimi. And then I would plan the next day, where was I going? And usually I get back by like 12 a.m. and then leave again in the morning before 6 a.m. to go to the next place. So I'll be out the whole day, and I'll be talking to strangers, trying to practice my Japanese and so on. Anyway, came back to Kanagawa-san's place for the last 2 or 3 weeks. My dad came as well, so he saw Japan the way I did, which was nice. And then what happened? So every day I would actually go to his office and learn Japanese. So I had bought some books in Tokyo. I had to learn how to write kanji. So I was like studying by myself during the day. And then when I went back to his place at night, it was a strange home situation that he had. His ex-wife, which is the kindest human being really on earth, she told me to call her Okasan, which is mother, right? So I have a Japanese mom. And we would try to communicate with each other every night after like we got home from the office, and she would cook me a meal and we would sit on the table and both of us with our dictionaries trying to converse to each other. So we'd be like searching for a word and then, trying to make sentences. And that was how I studied Japanese. That was how I learned Japanese. So that was a really cool experience. Another really cool one, tying into Japan now, is while I was during my undergrad in my second year, I did a hitchhike. I hitchhiked from England to Morocco with 2 guys from uni. That was a really, really interesting and tough experience. But anyway, the one to share is about that we met a guy called Muhammad in Paris. We had met his roommate in the ferry crossing from Dover to Calais, from England to France. And his roommate's name was Ibrahim. Ibrahim said, if you get stuck in Paris, give me a call. We got stuck in Paris. We gave Ibrahim a call. He picked us up, took us to his home. And then we experienced Morocco and Japan. So they were French Moroccans. So we were trying to get to Morocco, but we had already experienced Morocco in Paris, which was amazing. The next day we got stuck again in Paris. We tried hitchhiking 6 hours by the roadside. No, not a single car stopped for us. Called Mohammed again and said, Mohammed, we're stuck again. Can we come stay with you? And he said, come to my office in La Défense. And then he took us to his mom's place with no announcement. And suddenly there's like, Muhammad comes in with 3 strangers and says, oh, they're going to sleep here tonight. Okay. And then the mom just happened to have cooked the most amazing tagine that day, really the most amazing tagine that I've ever eaten until today. So it was amazing to have experienced this Moroccan hospitality in Paris before we got to Morocco. I always wanted to repay the kindness that Muhammad had shown us. When I was in Tokyo, I wrote him an email. So we had tried meeting up because while he was living in Paris, his ex-wife and his son were living in London, and I was in the UK, right? But we still never met in the UK. I wrote to him while I was in Tokyo, and he said, Wani, give me your phone number, I'm going to give you a call. So he gave me a call and he said, guess what? I'm going to be in Tokyo next week. And I'm like, no, we have to meet. So then I arranged for him to come up to Kanagawa-san's place, and he experienced Japan the way I did, with Kanagawa-san showing him, this incredible experience. So he lives in Tochigi-ken, which is between Tokyo and Fukushima, somewhere there in the middle, like 100 something kilometers north of Tokyo. And Tochigi-ken is known to be the prefecture in Japan that has the best strawberries. So the strawberries in Tochigi-ken is so amazing. Marisa, who's listening, will probably tell you she's had it as well. Yes, she did, because I introduced her to Kanagawa-san, and she's met Kanagawa-san before in Japan as well. Marisa was a batch below me and my housemate in Warwick. Anyway, the size of this Tochihime, which means Princess Tochi strawberry, it's like this big, it's like this big, it's like that big, it's like that big. And one strawberry can cost 6 francs, right, Marisa? 6 francs is like 25 ringgit. One strawberry. Yeah, exactly. And I ate so many of those strawberries. So that was really nice. I also experienced incredible things, like he would take me to a random restaurant in Shibuya in Tokyo one night to meet his friends. Okay, so some English speakers, which was nice. And the restaurant has only 2 tables. So essentially, there's a husband and wife pair who apparently were very famous chefs. They had their own TV show, blah, 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 but decided to do something smaller. And I later found out, after having had 3 meals in this restaurant, that it costs $500 per person for dinner. And again, it's this kaiseki meal, right? Where you sit down and they just bring you one dish after another, and you're sitting there, you're eating and eating for like 4 hours, and it's just the most amazing experience. Okay, anyway, that was my story about Japan. Anyway, Mohammed, if I can go back to him, we kept in touch. He actually visited my sister in the US before I even visited my sister's new home in the US. He has been to KL to visit my dad. My dad took him to watch Manchester United versus the Malaysian football team. Kanagawa-san flew to Oxford when I was in Oxford. Mohammed picked him up in London, took him up to Oxford, and then we all drove down to Paris together. We spent New Year's in Paris together at Mohammed's mom's place. Okay, so there's a whole story with Mohammed. And also he later met a Japanese woman who was Muslim in Germany online. They got married. Kanagawa-san flew to Basel. We flew from Basel to Düsseldorf for their wedding. They all came for our wedding in Basel. I mean, it's crazy. And Mohammed bought my kids' first train set. So that's a whole kind of worldwide story. Okay, so that was Japan. I have some notes that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to share some stories with you. Okay, so one of the stories that the students had for me was how is traveling different as a student and now as I don't know, whatever. Once you have money, working. So as a student, we did a lot of road trips. Back then, internet is not the way it is today. So we had like maps. Like I would be reading maps, figuring out which border crossing, how do we, where do we go? I've done crazy road trips where we visited 9 countries in 9 days, driving a lot. I remember times we were in Greece. We drove about 2,000 kilometers in 4 days. We would just stop at a random beach. We would wake up, we would go into the sea, mandi, and there's like fish. You can see the fish just swimming there and there's nobody. And then you just have a shower because there's a public shower there. And we just continue on. So we would sleep in the car, poor students, right? And then from Greece, it was 40 Celsius in September. It was super hot in Athens. And then we flew to Vienna. And it was 0 Celsius in Vienna. Can you imagine 40 Celsius difference? I experienced that a couple more times from Greenland coming back. Greenland was minus 25. And then we came back to Switzerland, was, I don't know, 10 Celsius or so. Okay. Really, I can talk so much about my travels and I'm aware of the time. When the panelists think I have to stop talking, please just stop me. I wanted to share maybe about Central Asia. So Central Asia was a place that I really wanted to go to because I wanted to see how Islam is practiced in a different part of the world. And particularly, I wanted to go to Bukhara because I remember as a Form 4 student in the history book, there was a picture, it talked about Imam Bukhari in Bukhara, and there was a picture of Bukhara in Uzbekistan. So I really wanted to go there for the longest time, and I finally went to visit in 2013. However, to go to this part of the world was very challenging because not a lot of people go there. And usually if you want to, and because I had this goal of visiting 100 countries before 30, and I only had about 25 days of holidays in a year, I always planned as much as possible packed in one go. So I tried to do the whole region. Perhaps I should share my screen with you again in a second. I cannot find it. I don't know how well you guys are with your geography, if you will know about these places that I'm going to say. So give me a second while I open up Google Maps and I can show you what we did. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. Share screen. Share. Okay. So you'll see my Google Maps. I have lots of stars because it shows you all the places I want to go. Not all of them I've actually been to. Anyway, so what we did was we flew into Georgia. We flew into Tbilisi. We did Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan. Now, the difficulty about planning this trip is firstly, not a lot of people. I mean, if firstly, I needed 7 visas out of 8 countries. So for 6 months before the trip, I couldn't travel anywhere because every time I got my passport back from one embassy, I would send it out to another to get the next visa. Because there's not a lot of information out there, I didn't know which borders were open or closed. How do we get from one point to another? So what I would ideally have done was fly into Georgia, go down to Armenia, and then go to Azerbaijan. Except that, did you know that Armenia and Azerbaijan had a big war again last year? And there it's not possible for you to cross between these two countries. So we had to go to Armenia, come back to Georgia, and then go to Baku. Turkmenistan, I don't know how much any of you know about Turkmenistan, but Turkmenistan is the second most closed country in the world after North Korea. It's a dictatorship. We wanted to enter Uzbekistan through the north, but the only way we could do that with the time limit that we had was to fly. The issue was, because it's a closed country, you can't buy a flight ticket online. So we had to wait till we get there, go to this strange, okay, I ask all of you to just go on my blog later, if you can please. And if you type Turkmenistan, you'll see a post I wrote about 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 Turkmenistan. There's something that I wrote about why Turkmenistan is the strangest country I've ever been to. That's a whole other story. See, this talk is not long enough because I think I'm already supposed to stop talking, but I continue until somebody really tells me to stop. Anyway, what was I? Okay, so for instance, another instance, when we were trying to go down to Dushanbe, from Samarkand to Dushanbe, oh, I haven't told you about the Imam Bukhari thing. I'll come back to Imam Bukhari's story in a second. So there was a border crossing that I thought we'd go through, and but I read somewhere that some days it's open and some days it's closed, and I'm like, I can't base my plans on not knowing whether it will be open or not in the day that I'm trying to cross, right? They know. So I called the embassy in Geneva, and they said, well, it really depends. If we like Tajikistan on that day, we'll open the border. And if we don't like Tajikistan, then we will close the border. And I'm like, well, that really doesn't help my life. So I couldn't use that border crossing because it wasn't certain. And at every point, whenever we got to a new place, the first thing we would do was to find out, how do we get out of here? And so I would find myself, for instance, in Samarkand, which is where Imam Bukhari's tomb is actually. We left the main city center to, how do I stop sharing my screen? I don't need you guys to see my screen anymore. Stop sharing. Okay. We went outside the city center. Obviously, I had learned Russian before going because the common language there was Russian. Well, when I say I learned Russian, I knew how to say random words like skolka, I don't know how much this thing cost, or like zavtra utram, which is like tomorrow morning, trying to get this to this point and another point. I suddenly found myself in the middle of a circle of men trying to get myself understood where we were trying to go. I told my husband to stay away because whenever generally people see a white man, they'll try to raise the price up. So when they say a brown woman, they're like, I can negotiate price as well. So the whole trying to get your point across is something that I had to learn in many different cultures. Try to not get cheated. When I say we travel, we really travel. I don't do the kind of holidays where you lie down by the beach and you do nothing, even if, we'll try and add, an excursion here or there. So Central Asia was very interesting. Another example of just something simple, right? We went to a place to eat just outside the city walls of a place called Khiva. You have to Google this place, Khiva. It's so beautiful. I spent my birthday there. I was so happy. It was like going back 1,000 years ago. So this is the Silk Road, right? You can really imagine how it must have been like a long time ago. So beautiful. And then, because we didn't know what was there to order, so we just pointed to the skewers that we saw outside. And then suddenly, the guys at the table next to us, they were eating some delicious looking puff bun-like thing with like meat and onions inside. And I'm like, what is that? And I was trying I was eating. It took a while, and then they pulled me outside and they said, look, this is what it is. And they showed me, if I can find a picture of this, I try, this amazing clay oven with the most delicious whatever in it. Sekejap, let me see. Okay, I don't know if I can find it. Okay, dah. Actually, I don't know what to say anymore now. Do I keep talking? Can somebody tell me? Should I keep talking or no? Or am I asking questions? Marissa, how do you plan your itineraries? So many places, seems so little time to prioritize. Okay, planning itineraries. So when I was a student, I did a lot based on the UNESCO World Heritage Site Guide. And then I realized that a lot of UNESCO World Heritage sites are not that great. So I kind of stopped doing that. I am on Instagram mainly because it gives me a lot of inspiration of places to travel to. So I use that, but also I keep adding the stars onto my Google Maps. So when I finally know that I will be visiting this area, I would have had like the kind of the groundwork of visiting the place would have already been there. I read a lot. I like, since the whole COVID, I've had, obviously it's been tough for me because I have a super detailed 10-year travel plan. I can tell you what are the next 12 new countries I should visit, but then, you know, nothing's gonna happen now. So I forgot what I said, but basically, yeah, in April last year, I really wanted to go to Ethiopia. So I have all these random itineraries that I've carved out for myself, waiting for the day that I actually go. So I'm a bit crazy like that. Okay, now. What else? Maybe I tell you some brief stories about some other places I've been to that really left an impression on me. So after my master's, I traveled for 6 months in Africa. So what I did was I joined like a tour group, and it was a combination of different tours. So I was alone, but there were a lot of other people from different countries from everywhere, but most of them were traveling in pairs. Africa was tough because it was, again, after Japan, it was really the first time I was traveling alone. But again, alone, soft alone, because there were other people, right? But it was lonely. Although I wasn't alone, I felt very lonely because everybody was in pairs. It was super amazing. Amazing to see what I saw as a kid watching National Geographic, going to the safari, seeing lions out there in their home was something incredible. That I loved about Africa. And I feel like I can never really go into a zoo again because that experience was just life-changing. What else? Africa was also hard because I stayed in a tent every night. I had to pitch a tent in every campsite. And unlike the other people who had 2 people staying in a tent together so they can build a tent together, these tents are like quite big. They are so heavy. And every time I had to do it by myself. And at some point, it's literally impossible for you to build it. I mean, I don't know how people do it on their own, but these tents were literally impossible. So I had to wait for one of the other guys once they finish, and then somebody will come and help me. So traveling solo really challenged me in the sense that it made me understand who I was. It made me, you know, it's like when you have time to yourself in the night, you're with your emotions, you learn about who you are, you get stronger. It's really different because you're taken out of your comfort zone, you're alone, you don't know anything, God knows what food are you eating every day. Food was always a challenge. Anyway, from there, I went to South America. South America was interesting because at the start, Peru, Bolivia, flying from New York with a stopover in El Salvador, like everyone was speaking to me in the plane in Spanish. And I'm like, lo siento, no hablo español. Like, I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish, although I look completely Mexican or whatever. In Peru, everybody in Cusco, like all the taxi drivers would just speak to me in Spanish, and I'm going like, oh, hablo solo un poquito español, yo soy de Malasia. Learning how to explain, to say where I am from in different languages as well. So Malasia in Spanish, Malaysia, Malaysia, Malaysia in Japanese, right? Because if you say, I don't know, if you say Malaysia in Japan, nobody understands you. So, macam tu. In the US, the number of people that have thought I'm Hawaiian in Costco shopping would run to me and say, "Are you from Hawaii?" And I go like, "No, I'm not." It's funny. The number of times people have thought I'm Filipino, even in London, like I'm in Bayswater near Malaysian Hall, and a Filipino woman would scream at me as I'm walking through Hyde Park and go like, "Are you Filipina?" And I'm like, "No." In the Philippines, people would speak to me in Tagalog, and I feel so bad, and I go like, "No, I'm sorry. No, I'm from Malaysia. I don't speak Tagalog." So that's interesting. South America was amazing, so amazing. So if I can share just some highlights, Machu Picchu is an Incan ruins. I don't know, probably at 4,000 meters. We did a 45-kilometer hike in 4 days. So like there's no place to shower except on the last night. You have to pay a lot of money to shower. Tents, you have porters carrying your stuff. Amazing. In Bolivia, the Bolivian salt flats called Salar de Uyuni. If you can visit that one day, please do. It is incredible. Bolivia is the place where I've been at the highest point ever. It was above 5,000 meters. So it was the kind where you are driving at 4,000 meters, you're sleeping in a salt hotel in the middle of nothingness, where there is 1 hour of electricity at night and then it's darkness. It is freezing cold. Somebody left their water bottle in the car, and of course it was completely frozen. Actually, it's frozen as well right now because the boys did an experiment yesterday outside, just right here. And I remember that in particular because possibly the first time that I saw the Milky Way, the stars, where there is no light pollution, is remarkable. And also there was a lake where in the middle of nowhere, so high up in the mountains, there were flamingos. This red lake with flamingos, incredible. Okay, I'm gonna jump to a place called Palau. Palau is a country in east of Philippines. It's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Palau is the first country in the world that is a shark sanctuary, which means it was the first country that banned you can't hunt sharks. And the reason you go there is only really if you dive. So if you dive, please go to Palau, or please dive and go to Palau, because it was remarkable. And the way that I said how amazing it was to see, like watching National Geographic when I was at the safari in Africa, it was the same in Palau, except that it was underwater. So in Palau, they came up with the reef hook dive. Of course, I swam with the sharks. Also, you saw in the video, my husband touched a nurse shark that was in Belize. And that was so special for me because when I was a kid, I was watching the Travel Channel with my mom at home, right? As a kid. And I saw Samantha Brown, this travel host, in Belize doing that, touching the sharks. So you're in the middle of the sea, like you cannot see the shore. It's so far away, and you can come off the boat and the water was literally just this high, and the sharks and the stingrays come up to you and you can touch these nurse sharks, and they're wild. I mean, incredible. And if you go to Cayman Islands, I've been lucky to go there twice. If you saw in the video, it was a stingray city. Again, you can hold the stingrays, and again, there, it's not the only place in the world. You can probably do it in Bora Bora or whatever places, but essentially the fishermen would stop and clean the catch from their sea, from their whatever, from the day, somewhere in the middle of the sea, and the stingrays found it to be an easy way to get food. So they got used to people, and so that's why Stingray City in Cayman is one of the things that you can do in Cayman. Again, in the video, you might have seen, but you may have missed it. There are the pitons, these perfect shaped mountains in St. Lucia. Check out, if you Google Jade, I think it's called the Jade Mountain Hotel in St. Lucia. Is this hotel that has is a room, all the hotel rooms they have 3 walls. So you have the view of the pitons in front of you with your own private pool. We did a cruise 2 times in the Caribbean, and I will never forget having breakfast with the view of the pitons as we're eating breakfast. I mean, it's just incredible. And as we were leaving St. Lucia at night, as we were going to have dinner, I just looked out by the rail of the ship, and I could see dolphins jumping, and the pitons are there, and the sun is setting. I mean, how beautiful. Okay, moving on. I told you about Palau. Another thing that you have to know about Palau is, okay, so I was telling about the reef hook dive. So what you do is, you hook yourself to a dead coral reef, and then you blow up your BCD, this thing that you're wearing, so you're floating. And the reason is because if you don't float, the current is so strong that you get hit by the coral reef, so it's not good for you. So you float, and all you do is you stare out into the blue. You stare out into the blue, and the big sharks, like 5-meter sharks, they're just there. And there was a reef shark that kept circling around me. It was always there, and the shark was about my size. Now I'm remembering, we did our PADI dive certification in Barbados. And in Barbados, on one of the dives, I saw a turtle. But the turtle was so huge. The turtle was bigger than me. I mean, did you know a turtle can be longer than 1.5 meters? Huge turtle. Incredible. Okay, apa lagi? Greenland. I love to tell you about Greenland. Okay, so Greenland. So if you Google my name, Syazwani Baumgartner, visit Greenland, or if you go on my blog and type Greenland, you'll see this experience I had. And the only reason I managed to go to this place, which is like probably one of the most remote places in the Western Hemisphere, is because my ex-boss has a private plane. And I was one of the 3 lucky people who he took along with him from Iceland to Greenland. So he flew the plane. He's an amazing pilot. He has flown around the world, the 25th person to fly solo around the world. So he took us to Greenland. From the airport, which is essentially landing in the middle of nowhere, complete snow, right? Snow, ice, I don't know. To get to the village, which is about 40 kilometers away, there are only 3 ways to get there. Either by helicopter, 4 ways, snowmobile, or in the summer by boat. So we took a helicopter to go the first time. And then on the way back, it was in a snowmobile. You know what? I have to show you guys this picture because it is literally super amazing. Share screen, share. Okay, so you guys see it, right? Look, that's me. That's actually me. I don't know if this is the right one to show you. But look, that's kind of what we saw there. I mean, how amazing is this sunset that I saw? And then this. Okay, so this is one crazy story. So our guide he took us to his home, right? And he showed us this picture that he had taken while he said he was cooking breakfast for his grandson in his house. And then he said suddenly he saw a polar bear. And so he took that picture. And I realized that, you know, when you go to a zoo, the animals are in the cage, right? They're stuck in the cage. We're watching them from outside. In Greenland, it's the opposite. The humans are stuck in their homes because you've entered their territory. And in this place called Itokotormit, generally people bring a gun with them wherever they go to scare polar bears away because it's a real threat. Okay, so that was Greenland. Hiking, maybe I mentioned something about my love for the mountains in Switzerland. So last year when we couldn't travel, I had to cancel all my travel plans. I didn't know what to do. I had to think of something new to do. And so I thought, you know what? Switzerland is so beautiful. Let's do more hikes in the mountains. So personally, last year I did 30 hikes. Some of the hikes I did, quite a lot were solo. Some obviously with the family and with the kids on the weekends. Some with another friend. And I would do hikes generally between, with the kids, always around 10 kilometers, which is still really, really tough because they're like they were 5, 4, and 2. So we had to carry one person or two and keep motivating them to hike up a mountain at a high altitude level. So it's not easy. And 10 kilometers is a long way up in the mountains. So generally, if I were on my own, I would do between 15 and 25 kilometers, hiking at altitudes above 2,000 meters, climbing up to 1,000 meters. Usually I would do it as a day trip. I would wake up really early. I would take the train before 6 a.m. so that I could get up in the mountains by 9:30, before 10, because it takes a long time to get to the mountains from Basel. Because you always have to change trains, and then you have to take a cable car, another cable car. And I always enjoy my time in the mountains because it's very, it's calm, it's beautiful. It's the outdoors in Switzerland is very special. Okay, so that's about outdoors. Apa lagi? Oh, Palau. Again, sorry. It was so amazing, right? So we had this video underwater camera, took videos. After Palau, we went to Seoul. Another thing about Palau that was interesting was, whenever we were on the boats going out for dives, we would ask everybody in the boat, where are you from? How did you get here? So the first day, the dive instructor, she said she was from Texas. She said she flew Texas, California, Hawaii, Guam, Palau. I mean, it is so remote. I mean, it's not so remote, but it is hard to get to. So you can only fly in from a few places like Guam, Seoul, which is where we came from. So we did Zurich, Doha, Seoul, Palau. You can fly in from maybe somewhere in Australia, and I don't know if there's a fourth one. What else? I swam with whale sharks in the Philippines. That was an amazing experience. We jumped into the water 8 times, and I was lucky to see the whale sharks 7 out of 8 times. My husband saw them all 8 times. A guy we had met said he was there for 3 days and saw 0. So there's a lot of luck in play as well. If I jump back to Greenland, I have to say that it was the first time that I saw Northern Lights. Usually when you go to, say, Iceland or whatever, you have to chase Northern Lights because you're usually staying in a town and there's light pollution. So you have to drive out like quite far. But because we were so remote, there was nobody, there was nothing in this place, right? We saw the Northern Lights from our bedroom window. And the way they say that the lights swirl and move so fast, like I saw that and I was screaming like a crazy person because it was so magical. Incredible. I hope you guys get to see it one day. Food trips. I love to share some food trips. Okay, so another great difference between being poor as a student traveling versus now having money and, having money is the places that you can go to for food. So I've been, when I was in the UK, as a student, I once went to a Gordon Ramsay restaurant in London, and I remember having butter on bread, and I was blown away by the butter, something as simple as butter. And that was when I started thinking I have to keep trying fine dining. So fine dining in the UK is so cheap. You can go to a 1 Michelin star restaurant for a 3-course meal at lunch for 30 pounds, maybe now these days. Before it was even cheaper, 25 pounds. And as you know, like I said, in Japan, I've had meals at $500 per head, but I didn't pay for them, luckily. I have paid some, enough money for a meal. And one of them that I thought was particularly spectacular was a restaurant in Copenhagen. So it was a 1 or 2 star restaurant. What was amazing was that usually when you go to these fine dining restaurants, they come to you and they serve you an amuse-bouche, which is like a welcome treat from the kitchen. And usually they give you maybe one amuse-bouche. At this restaurant called Kado in Copenhagen, they came. Okay, so they said, this is your first bite from a welcome treat from the kitchen. And they explain what this one bite is, right? And there's like minimum of 10 different ingredients on this one bite that you're taking. And then a few minutes later, they come again with another piece, and then another, and another. I looked at my watch. We had sat at the table and we had been eating for 1 hour. And we hadn't even seen the menu. We had not ordered to eat anything. I mean, another level, another experience. But something as simple as having sushi in Japan, I remember going back to Oxford and I went to Yo Sushi and I had a piece of sashimi and I was like, what is this? It's like heaven and earth. Like you do not want to eat that again, but then you don't live in Japan, so you eat what you get. Okay, maybe I should stop talking because it's already 11:06 here. So okay, I don't know. I guess I take questions. No.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Wani, for the wonderful speech. And it really, truly is amazing how you've traveled to so many countries and all your experiences. So now we'll move on to the Q&A session. There are a lot of questions. So the first question is, how are you able to adapt to living in Switzerland? What do you love most about living there? And do you also regularly visit Malaysia?
I did not visit Malaysia for 9 years because I was very determined to get my 100 countries before 30, and also because my sister lives in the US. My brother also lives in the US right now, so I used to go to the US every year to rather visit family. How was it like adapting to Switzerland? Switzerland, it's actually really funny. Obviously, I didn't speak the language, and now I speak some German. It was actually really tough. The Swiss are very closed people. It's not easy to make friends with Swiss people. The only Swiss friends I have are probably because they are married to an expat. So then, they're a bit, more open. I remember the biggest culture shock for me moving here was learning that you cannot just use any trash bag for your trash. You have to buy a special trash bag because otherwise they won't pick up your trash. And each trash bag costs 230 Swiss francs, which is like 10 ringgit. And I was like, what? Why is the trash bag so expensive? And Switzerland is really divided based on canton. Each canton, like a state, has their own government. So you pay different taxes depending on which canton you live in. And so the higher taxes you pay, the lower the price of a trash bag costs. But the lower taxes you pay, the higher the cost of a trash bag. So there's a canton called Zug, where taxes are like 5% and a trash bag costs 5 francs each. Okay, so I don't know if that helps. Does that answer the question? I hope it does a little bit.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so now we'll be moving on to the second question, which is, what's your favorite budget-friendly company to visit as a student?
Budget favorite company? Like travel company?
Yeah, travel.
So I only did it once with this big 6 months thing. And with Africa, it was called Acacia Adventures, I think. And the other one in South America was called G Adventures, I think. G Adventures. Google them. They're good.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll be moving on to the third one. So what made you decide to build a company and also to stay in Switzerland?
So always wanted to work for myself. Love doing recruitment. Essentially, if you work for another person, it's such that you have a base salary and then you get commission base, depending on how much you bring in. And I thought, you know what, I've done that enough. Why don't I try to do it by myself? So it took quite a lot of guts, I think, to step away from a full-time paid salary to go down this entrepreneur route. But I'm very glad I'm doing this. Hitchhiking sounds like a fun thing to do. Yeah, hitchhiking was a really great experience. If anyone would like to try something, I would so try to hitchhike. Please give it a try, but also please try traveling solo. It teaches you so much about yourself. It's such a great way to learn about who you are, what makes you you, and to be able to meet people in a different manner. When you travel solo, people will approach you much easier than if you were to be with somebody else. I remember when I was in Uruguay. So Uruguay is south of Brazil. I was running. So this is another story, if I may share. At some point during my travels, I always felt I had to do a bit of sports. So whenever there was time, I would just go out and run. I go for a run, and I stopped by the side of They have a big giant river which almost looks like the sea. And then this couple just came up to me and said, "Why don't you share our mate? MATE, like mate, but it's called mate. Is their tea, a special tea that they drink in Uruguay and Argentina." And they fed me food. And so by this point of time, my Spanish was pretty good. So I was conversing with them, I was telling them about who I am. And those kind of experiences you wouldn't get if you are with another person, because you're less approachable. Another random story about running in somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I was in Puerto Varas in Chile. It's the top of the start of Patagonia. And I was running next to a lake. I was running, came back. And as I was coming back, I looked to my left. So the lake was by now on my right. I looked on the left and there was a window of a shop. And suddenly I saw the image of like a mountain, a volcano. And I was like, what? So I turned around and I saw this volcano right across me on the other side of the lake. The clouds had gone away, and it was just the most spectacular thing. Can you guys please Google Puerto Varas? It is so magical. Beautiful place. Okay, da. Next question.
Yeah, thank you for that wonderful answer. So our next question is, which language would you suggest to pick up for travel?
It really depends where you want to go, right? But obviously the two most useful languages for traveling worldwide, I would say Spanish and French. Spanish because the whole of South America, French because of Africa, actually. But then, actually maybe not a lot of people care about Africa, so maybe not. So Spanish. And then again, depending if you care about the Middle East, Arabic. If I may share, during the 6 months of traveling, I religiously wrote a diary at the end of every day. And I remember I would, on average, write about 1,000 words a day. And then I found myself in Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and I was writing on average 2,000 words a day. And when I look back and I read about what I wrote, it was so funny because it was just me complaining and complaining and complaining about the people there, because all they do is try to cheat you left, right, and center. And it's so frustrating. It's energy sucking. It's really tiring. And also the kind of people that you meet while you're traveling in different parts of the world are very different. So for instance, more Americans, I want to say purely Americans and Brits in South America. Different parts of Africa, you'll see more Asians. And when I say Asians, it's really only Japanese and Koreans. There, I mean, really not a lot of people travel. So it's, yeah. I so encourage people to try somehow save up some money, and it's possible to travel cheaply. So please do go out there and see the world. It's a great big world.
Oh, that sounds really wonderful. I'm sure a lot of us will want to travel, and we all miss traveling since the whole COVID-19 pandemic. But moving on to our next question, how much of the Japanese language do you need to grasp before being able to survive in Japan alone?
Okay, the thing is, now with technology, you really don't need it, right? You have all this this Google app translations where you put it on a menu and then you can read what it says in your language. You can, speak and then it translates it into Japanese. So now do you need it? No. But I think for me, at least back then, something as simple as, I don't know, the train to Tokyo, what time is it, which platform it is, what time, how long does it take? It's very simple. It's more about how do you get from one point to another, where is this place? I think those were really the main things that you need to know if you wanted to know anything at all. And then maybe some nice brief introductions about yourself, like, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Next question. Someone was wondering how you managed to gather enough funds to travel around the world at such a young age.
I was obviously very lucky because my dad gave me some money, and also I saved a lot of my scholarship money from PNB. So during my undergrad, I got £580 a month, and then for my postgrad, they gave me £1,200 a month. So I could save a lot of money, and my dad really gave me a lot of money. Do we still have time to hear about the Bukhara story? You do. Okay, so Imam Bukhari, what happened was we went to visit his mausoleum. So the mausoleums and the shrines in these countries, they're huge complexes, right? I wanted to pay my respects to Imam Bukhari because for whatever reason, Imam Bukhari is Imam Bukhari. So I wanted to go and see where his remains lie. Went there, and in the middle of the mausoleum, there's like a very nice, beautiful whatever, and they do like, macam as if that's his kubur, right? His grave. But actually it's underground. You have to go down some stairs. So that was like the fake just to see it as, but the real thing is down there. And then I was like, I really want to go in there. We just hung out, we just stayed there for a bit, and then suddenly we saw a whole bunch of government officers coming, and they all went down there. And before this whole point, I had been talking to the guy who was like the caretaker of this place, and I said, look, this is me, this is it's very important that I'm here. I came here because as a 15-year-old kid in Malaysia, I learned about Imam Bukhari, and I really, I'm here to pay my respects to him, and this whole trip is about this place for me. I would really love to be able to go down to see his shrine. And he said, yeah, it's very difficult, because it's not open to public. And then suddenly, and he was telling my story to like the imam of the place, and they were like, yeah, okay, let's see what we can do, And then suddenly, when all these government officers came and they had opened the door, right? Suddenly somebody, the guy said, look, you're gonna go in right after they come out, but get ready. So we quickly got ready, and then they're like, go now. So like me and my husband, and then suddenly one other random guy, a French guy, was visiting, like sneaked in as well, and we went inside. And I want to say 2 times in my life I had this smell. I smelled this special smell. It was there. It was just very a humbling experience to have been there. And then at another shrine where there was I'm not sure how the relation of this person is to the Prophet Muhammad SAW, but it's a direct relation, his grandnephew or something. At that other shrine also, I smelled this special smell. I've never smelled it before or after. And both were in Uzbekistan. Both were in Samarkand.
All right, thank you so much. So we have our next question, which is, have you ever thought of becoming a full-time traveler?
I mean, I love to, but I have 3 kids. They have to go to school. So yeah, sure. But I think right now I'm at a different point of life. I think I've had traveling was such a big part to get to that 100 countries, and then I stopped. I said now it's about having kids, and so I spent time, building a family, and then now for me it's about working towards building a business. Up until I'm 40, for the next 5 years, I want to concentrate on building hopefully what will be an empire. That's my goal now. And then come back to the traveling, because now having been to 108 countries, the new countries that I want to visit, my husband doesn't want to visit them. And I don't want people to have to come with me if they don't want to. This is my thing. It's my personal thing. So my husband and I have been to 70 countries together in the last 10 years. So I've gone back to many countries, many times since. But I want to do the tough ones. Like for instance, in West Africa, that's really my dream. So previously, for instance, if my dream was to go to Central Asia, I have so many dreams of more places I want to visit, like Churchill in Canada, where you have to Google Churchill, Canada after this call, and you'll see the beluga whales. You can kayak, and you can swim with beluga whales. I want to go to Antarctica, but Antarctica is one of those really expensive countries. Just to do a cruise in Antarctica, on average, is a minimum 5,000 to 10,000 dollars. Yes, I've been to Machu Picchu. Yes, I did the Inca Trail, 45 kilometers in 4 days. Yep. Do you I usually travel without a tour guide? Yeah. So after my 6 months of traveling, I've never again done a tour except like a day trip tour on St. Lucia, for instance, where we're with a cruise ship and you have a certain amount of time and the best way to see the islands just with a tour. So it's just something like that, but otherwise no. The last big trip that we did was to India last year. So with the 3 kids, we had six internal flights. We visited 10 places. It was full on. Machu Picchu was not hard. No. I mean, no, it's fine. What is your preference between the UK or US in terms of the people, culture, geography? So personally, I love Europe a lot. I don't think US is for me. I mean, my sister lives in my siblings, both of them live in the US. And for me, the distances are just, it doesn't help. So my brother lives in Texas now, and he was telling me that they drove 9 hours straight and they were still in Texas. You drive 9 hours from Basel. I mean, you drive 5 minutes from Basel and you're in France. You drive 5 minutes from Basel the other way, you're in Germany. So it's different. For me, you asked earlier how often you go back to Malaysia, and not a lot, but we go to London a lot. So for instance, my kid, he had been to London 10 times by the time I was 5 years old. So we go to London every so often because for me, that's home away from home. What was your favorite country to travel to? I mean, I don't know if I have a favorite country to travel to, but some of my favorites, I think Uzbekistan is up there, Palau, like I've told you. Greenland is probably the most amazing experience I've ever had because the remoteness, the stillness, the silence, it is so pure. It's like if you take somebody from this place that I visited in Tokotorme, you put this person in New York City, this person will die. And I am literally not joking. This person, one of our guide there, actually said when she went to Nuuk, which is the capital of Greenland, which has 3,000 people, something really little. She said it was too busy for her. And we're like, wow, okay, I mean, it's different. So for me, it's the remoteness that attracts me these days. But those countries are really expensive. If you want to go to a place like Greenland, you need to set aside $1,000 a day. But just to get there, I mean, it's so expensive to get there. I was just very lucky. I'm very, very lucky. Other things that I want to do that's on my bucket list is to go back to Greenland. I want to explore a different area. So we were in the Eastern Hemisphere. I want to go to the Northwest, a place called Disco Bay. Please Google that. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You go there to see the icebergs. So you go there in the summer for the midnight sun. What you can do is you can go out kayaking at midnight and you can stop on an iceberg and have a picnic on an iceberg at 2 a.m. Any plans for a book? No plans for a book. Award-winning author? No. Marcia. Okay, apalagi, how do I keep contact with friends around the world? Facebook, I guess. Facebook, WhatsApp. Yeah. Dah. And yes, of course, you can send me the rest of the questions by email. I don't know how will people get the answers though.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we have a lot of other questions in the Q&A box, but we only have time for one last question. So is it all right if you can answer the questions later through text or through email, and then we'll upload it on an Instagram profile? Is that all right?
Okay, of course.
Yeah. So to everyone else, please stay tuned to the Instagram profile at History Club KYS, and the answers for the questions that haven't been answered yet will be answered over there. So now for our last question of the evening.
I'm sorry. I'm just literally seeing this Q&A box right now. I quickly answer just a bunch of them very quickly. Yes, I met my husband in Buenos Aires. We traveled together from Buenos Aires to Rio. So I was very lucky because my parents took us to Europe twice when I was in Standard 3 and Standard 6. And actually during one of these times, they took us to Oxford, and my mom had said to us, one day you're going to study here. So when I got the acceptance letter from Oxford, it was very, it was quite a great feeling. One continent, if I had a favorite continent, it's very difficult to choose between South America and Africa. Please visit South America and Africa. It's and you know, if I say Africa, I mean, it's so different because you can go to Morocco. Morocco is Africa, but that's North Africa. You can go to Mauritius, you know, but Mauritius is Africa, but you know, it's Mauritius. Seychelles is Africa, and you know, you compare that rather to Maldives and to Africa. But East Africa is a great place to start. If there's just one country for you to visit, okay, I love Japan. Please just go to Japan. I mean, Japan. I can go to Japan every year, but that's really difficult for me because I also want to go back and see family and our family in the US as well. So yeah, best memory in KYS. Oh, susah. Tak tahu. Okay, dah. Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening. You guys are amazing.
Thank you so much, Miss Wani, for that amazing speech. I'm sure everyone was really excited the whole time, and it truly, really is inspiring to know that someone like you managed to travel to so many different countries, and it definitely has motivated all of us to do so ourselves. So thank
Okay.
you so much.
Can I please say one last thing? Seriously, my travel blog, I put a lot of work in it, especially if you want to go to Switzerland. There's a lot of good stuff in there. So check out travelmusefamily.com. I'm also on Instagram. And if you type my name, Syazwani Fatkhi, on YouTube, you'll see a bunch of random videos, including the one I played at the start of this. And I didn't talk to you about like places like Colombia and Mexico, the cenotes in Mexico. I mean, please just go travel and see the world for yourself. But when COVID is over, I should be sharing my pictures from travels on my on Instagram at least. So if you want to see the world through my eyes, there. Thank you.
So thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have almost reached the end of this event. Now for the e-certificate presentation. Give it up for Miss Syazwani Fatkhi.
Thank you so much. So sweet. Thank you. Very kind of you guys to have me today. Thank you.
To end this event, I would like to invite the man who made all of this possible, the KYSER Talk Project Manager, Azmi Akbar, to say a few words.
Okay, hi guys. So it has finally come to the end of the talk, and I would like to once again thank the wonderful Miss Wani who took time out of her day to impart knowledge to all of us. It truly means the world to everyone here, and a big thank you to Ms. Rama, our teacher in charge, and the History Club President Iman Amani for making sure this event was possible. To Harvina, the MC, for ensuring this event ran as smoothly as possible. The Art and Design Committee, Azrin and Putri Christina, for all their help in designing the posters and slides that all of you have seen before you today. And last but not least, Christina Africa and Arisa Hani for moderating the questions and the YouTube live stream. Thank you so much to everyone who joined today and to everyone who helped in making this project a success. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Azmi. Well, that marks the end of today's event. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. A huge thank you to Ms. Wani for taking time out of your very busy day to be here. We hope to meet again soon. Thank you and goodbye. Also, just a quick announcement, all the panelists are requested to stay back as we will be having a photography session. Thank you everyone for joining.
Hi. Thank you so much, Miss Wani, for the speech. It was very memorable for a lot of us. There are a few questions there. If we could email it to you and uploading it once you've answered them all on Instagram, is that all right?
Of course.
Okay. Do you mind if we take one picture with the committee members?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for organizing.
Oh, it's our pleasure, Miss Wani.
Where are you guys? Where is everybody? At home?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are.
We're stuck at home.
Kok kesiannya. Is it macam miserable or no?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Kesiannya. When was the last time you were in school?
December.
Last
Some of
year.
us went
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
So macam the full day you have online classes?
Yes, we have like 7 hours of classes every day.
From
my
8 to 2:30.
Kesiannya. Okay, anyway. Dah tangkap gambar belum?
Amani's figuring out how to screenshot.
It's okay, I can do it then.
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Amani.
you. I feel you know what? It's really difficult. It's like I can literally I can talk about I can keep talking about my travels and it's literally an impossible task to yeah.